All right, welcome to pattern directions for pajama pants. Now, your teacher may be using a little bit different pattern. That's okay. For the most part, most pajama pant patterns and directions are going to be relatively similar. For the sake of this demonstration, we are going to be using the New Look 6404. We are going to kind of just set our fabric to the side for the time being, and we're going to pull out our pajama pant patterns. This stuff right here, this tissue paper, this is the actual pattern itself. These right here are called guide sheets. Sometimes the guide sheets look a little bit different. Maybe they're just printed on normal paper. That's fine. It's different with each set of pattern companies. So we are going to start with our guide sheets here. We are wanting to make the pajama pants, so we're making C right here. You'll notice if you're looking at your guide sheets, there's several set of directions. That's essentially what your guide sheets are. First, we've got our pajama pants, well, the pattern images. It shows the front side, it shows the back side. We are making C. Obviously, you could be making D as well. The only difference really is the length of your pants. Then it's showing you the pattern pieces. Inside of this pattern, there are 11 pattern pieces. It shows you an image of these pattern pieces. Right here on this list, it identifies the pattern pieces that you need to make each of the letters of the pattern. We are making C, so what we do is we look down this list and we find all the ones with a C next to it. So we need pattern piece number 5, number 6. Number 7 says it's the pocket. We are not going to be doing inseam pockets. If you would like to put a patch pocket on throughout this project, I will walk through those steps at a later point in the pajama pant process. But the rest of the pattern pieces we don't need. So really all we need is pattern piece 5 and 6. So if I look up here, number 5 and 6 are the pattern pieces that I need. If you continue to look at the directions here, it shows you all kinds of images that you're going to see in your directions. It tells you how to use your pattern. It gives you directions on how to lengthen and shorten. It's telling you what your seam allowance is. For the sake of this pattern, we will be using a 5/8 inch seam allowance. It walks you through all kinds of stuff. You've got your sewing directions, your fabric key. So as you're looking at the directions, you know what direction your fabric is facing. So we are now going to move to our tissue paper. And we need to open these up and we need to find pattern piece number 5 and number 6. So we're going to just start by opening up our tissue paper and unfolding it a little bit. And if I'm looking at this, I guess correctly, because looking at this, here's my pattern piece 5, pattern piece 6, and 7. Remember, we're not doing the pocket, so at this point we can just kind of ignore that. The rest of these pattern sheet or pattern pieces, we are just going to stick back into our envelope. We are going to set our guide sheets to the side, and now you're going to be using your small scissors, not your shears, to separate your pattern pieces. We're going to be cutting out directly on the line the size that we need when we cut it out of our fabric. So right now, really all we need to do is separate our pattern pieces. We're just going to trim down this tissue paper. It does not need to be perfect right now. We just need to get them separated so that we can lay them down on our fabric. I'm going to just cut out some of the excess bolts here, and we'll cut down to size later. So for now, we're just separating the pattern pieces. As we separate here, that's as simple as it needs to be. Now, before we are ready to actually cut these out of our fabric, we need to take another look at the guide sheet. So since we're not using this pattern piece, I'm just going to kind of fold it back up and put it back into my pattern envelope so that I know that I have it if I ever want to make it again in the future. This stuff right here, this is called trash. Get it into a trash can. My pattern pieces are now ready for me to lay down on my pattern, or fabric. But before then, I want to take a second and look at the guide sheets one more time. The guide sheets also give you directions for pattern layout. So if I'm looking right here, I'm not making A or B, I'm making C. Once again, it's telling me right here, I'm using pattern pieces 5, 6, and 7. I'm only using 7 if I want to do the pocket. Then it's showing me 2 different ways that I can lay out my fabric. If my fabric is 45 inches wide, I'll use this diagram. If my fabric is 60 inches wide, I'll use this diagram. So we'll be using those momentarily. But if we look at the rest of the directions here, so this is page 2 of 3. The page that we were just on was 1 of 3, and then we've got 3 of 3 on our second sheet here. These directions, commercial patterns don't give you directions for seam finishing. So, in seam finishing, we've practiced 6 different ways to finish seam allowances. Serging is the most effective. So my recommendation, your teacher will have a set of these directions, and up on the board, they will have tips for you where you can go and look, and maybe there will be a note here that says serge or seam finish right here, and it will be highlighted. Take your pattern directions up and copy down those tips that your teacher is walking you through. Essentially, where this is your first time using a commercial pattern, having those tips there that remind you to seam finish after each step are really helpful. At some point though, you need to get to the point where you can read through the directions and identify where you would need to seam finish all on your own. This is our pattern prep for the pajama pant patterns. We're now ready to get sewing.